The dim glow of the restaurant lights flickered against the polished wooden tables. Soft music played in the background, and the air carried the faint scent of roses and freshly baked desserts. Emily sat at a table near the window, her fingers tapping lightly against the stem of her wine glass. She had been waiting for almost 20 minutes. Her eyes kept drifting to the entrance, scanning every face that walked in. The restaurant was filled with couples, all lost in their own little worlds, exchanging gifts, holding hands, whispering sweet promises. But Emily felt a strange uneasiness in the pit of her stomach. Her phone buzzed. A shiver ran down her spine as she looked at the screen. An unknown number. "He's not who you think he is. Don't trust him tonight." The words blurred in front of her eyes. Her heart started racing. She blinked hard, reading the message again, hoping it was some kind of mistake. But it wasn't. Her fingers trembled as she typed back, "Who is this?" No response. She glanced around the restaurant, suddenly feeling watched. Her mind ran wild with thoughts. Was this a joke? Was someone trying to mess with her, or was there something about Ryan she didn't know? Just then, Ryan walked in, smiling, holding a small velvet box in his hand. His dark brown eyes locked onto hers as he made his way to the table. Emily quickly shoved her phone into her purse, forcing a smile. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Sorry, I'm late, sweetheart. Got caught up in something." Emily nodded, trying to act normal, but her mind was spinning. Something? What was he caught up in? And why did someone think she shouldn't trust him? As the waiter poured their wine, Ryan reached into his pocket and placed the velvet box on the table. "Before we eat, I want to give you something special." Emily's heart pounded. Was this a proposal? She watched as he opened the box, revealing a delicate diamond bracelet. It shimmered under the candlelight. "Happy Valentine's Day, Em." His voice was soft, full of warmth. Emily swallowed hard. She should have been overjoyed, but the text message played in her mind like a warning siren. She forced a smile, slipping the bracelet onto her wrist. "It's beautiful, Ryan. Thank you." Ryan exhaled in relief. "There's actually something else I need to tell you tonight. Something important." Emily's breath hitched. Her fingers tightened around the bracelet. Was this what the message was about? Before she could say anything, Ryan's phone buzzed. His expression changed. He glanced at the screen, then quickly turned it face down. "Give me a second, babe. I need to take this." Without waiting for her response, he got up and walked toward the exit, phone pressed to his ear. Emily sat frozen, staring at the spot where he had been. Her mind screamed at her to follow him. Her hands felt clammy as she grabbed her purse and stood up. She moved toward the entrance, keeping a safe distance. Ryan was standing just outside, his back turned to her. His voice was low, urgent. "Yeah, I know. I'll be there soon. Just wait for me." Emily's heart dropped. He wasn't talking to a work colleague. He wasn't talking to a family member. His voice had a different edge to it. She watched as he hung up, exhaled deeply, then ran a hand through his hair like he was nervous about something. Without thinking, Emily slipped outside, walking toward the parking lot. She wasn't going to sit around and wait for answers. She needed to know what was going on. As she reached Ryan's car, her eyes landed on the passenger seat. A small, neatly wrapped gift box sat there. But this one was different from the bracelet. Her stomach twisted as she leaned closer, her breath fogging up the glass. A golden locket peeked from inside the box, and when she looked closer, her heart nearly stopped. The name engraved on the locket wasn't hers. Emily's fingers curled into fists as she stared at the locket. Her breath came in quick, shallow gasps. Who was this for? Her mind raced through possibilities, but each one led her to the same chilling thought. Ryan was hiding something. She stepped back, heart hammering in her chest. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe there was a logical explanation. But that text, It wasn't a coincidence. Someone wanted her to know the truth. Before she could think any further, she heard footsteps. She quickly moved away from the car and ducked behind another vehicle just as Ryan walked toward his car. He pulled out his keys, unlocked the door, and grabbed the small box. For a moment, he just stood there, staring at it, his expression unreadable. Then, with a sigh, he put it back inside and shut the door. Emily watched as he pulled out his phone again and dialed a number. "I'll be there soon. Just wait for me." Her stomach twisted. He was leaving. But where was he going? She hurried back inside the restaurant, sitting down just as Ryan re-entered. He forced a smile, sliding back into his seat. "Sorry about that," he said casually, taking a sip of his wine. Emily tried to keep her voice steady. "Who was that?" Ryan hesitated for half a second. "Just work stuff. Nothing important." A lie. She could hear it in his tone. She forced a small smile and nodded, even though her mind screamed at her to confront him. Dinner continued, but Emily barely tasted the food. She laughed when she was supposed to, nodded when Ryan spoke, but inside she was spiraling. Then, just as she was about to push the thought aside and enjoy the night, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, and her blood ran cold. "Follow him if you want to know the truth." Her hands tightened around her phone. This was it. Whoever was sending these messages knew something, and Emily wasn't going to sit back and ignore it. A plan formed in her mind. She needed to follow him. So, when dinner ended and Ryan kissed her goodbye, telling her he had to take care of something real quick before they continued the night, Emily smiled sweetly and nodded. Then she got into her car and followed him. The streets were quiet, the traffic light. Ryan drove with purpose, taking turns that led away from the busy part of the city. Emily kept a safe distance, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Finally, Ryan pulled into the parking lot of a hotel. Emily's breath caught. A hotel? Her pulse pounded in her ears as she watched him get out of the car, glancing around like he was making sure no one had followed him. Then, he walked inside. Emily's chest tightened. She could turn around now, pretend she never saw this, act like everything was fine. But deep down, she knew she had to see the truth with her own eyes. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open her car door and followed him inside. Emily stepped into the hotel lobby, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The warm, golden lights, the scent of fresh lilies in the air, and the soft hum of conversations around her felt surreal. Everything seemed normal, except for the storm brewing inside her. She spotted Ryan at the reception desk, speaking in hushed tones with the concierge. She quickly ducked behind a large decorative plant, trying to stay out of sight. A moment later, Ryan took a key card and walked toward the elevator. Emily hesitated only for a second before rushing toward the stairs, deciding to take a different route to avoid being seen. Her breaths were heavy as she climbed, her mind racing. Was he meeting another woman? Was this why someone warned her? She reached the third floor, just as she heard the soft ding of the elevator. Pressing herself against the wall, she peeked around the corner and saw Ryan walking down the hallway, stopping in front of room 306. He knocked twice, and Emily held her breath as the door slowly opened. A woman stood there, tall, elegant, with dark, wavy hair cascading over her shoulders. She smiled warmly at Ryan before stepping aside to let him in. Emily's world spun. Who was she? How long had this been going on? The sight of Ryan walking so casually into another woman's hotel room made her chest tighten painfully. Every doubt she had buried, every excuse she had made for him, crumbled in that moment. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to move, inching closer down the hall. The door hadn't shut completely. She could hear muffled voices inside. Her hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone, considering texting back the unknown number. What now? Do I walk away? Do I confront him? Then she heard Ryan's voice. "I missed you. I can't believe I finally found you." Emily's breath hitched. "Missed you? Found you?" The woman's voice followed, soft and emotional. "It's been so many years, Ryan. I never thought I'd see you again." Emily's stomach twisted in confusion. "Years? See you again?" This wasn't a romantic affair, it was something else. She pressed her back against the wall, trying to calm her racing heart. The urge to barge in and demand answers burned inside her, but something told her to wait. Then she heard it, Ryan's voice thick with emotion. "I never stopped looking for you, Sophia. I promised Mom I would find you." Emily's eyes widened. "Sophia? Mom?" The realization hit her like a wave. This woman wasn't his lover, she was his sister. Shock washed over her, leaving her frozen in place. But just as relief started to settle in, another thought cut through her mind like a knife. If Ryan wasn't cheating, then who sent that message? Before she could process anything, her phone buzzed again. Her hands trembled as she lifted it, reading the message that sent chills down her spine. "I warned you not to trust him, but I never said he was the one betraying you." A sharp breath left her lips. If not Ryan, then who? Her blood ran cold as a new realization dawned on her. Someone wanted her to believe Ryan was the villain, someone close to her. And then, almost like fate, the hotel lobby door swung open downstairs. Tanya walked in. Emily's entire body went numb. Tanya? What was she doing here? She stepped back, pressing herself against the wall as she watched her best friend walk confidently through the lobby. Tanya's long blonde hair was neatly curled, her fitted red dress hugging her figure like she had dressed up for the night. But what made Emily's stomach twist was the way Tanya moved, like she belonged there, like she knew exactly where she was going. Emily's fingers clenched around her phone. It was her. She was the one who sent the messages. But why? Emily's mind raced through every moment of their friendship. Tanya had been there for her through every heartbreak, every late-night rant about relationships. She was the first to say, "Men always have secrets, Em. Don't trust them too easily." And now here she was, following Ryan, the man Tanya always claimed she wasn't a fan of, but never explained why. Emily forced herself to move, following Tanya from a safe distance. She didn't need to check her phone again to know what was happening. Tanya was about to try and destroy everything. Tanya reached room 306 and paused at the door. Emily held her breath, watching as her so-called best friend took out her own phone and typed something. A second later, Emily's phone vibrated in her hand. Another message from the unknown number. "Still think he's innocent?" Emily's stomach dropped. Tanya had been playing her this whole time. She watched as Tanya put her phone away, straightened her dress, and knocked on the door. Inside, Ryan and Sophia's voices went silent. Emily didn't know what Tanya was about to say, but she knew one thing. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Tanya had planned this. She had manipulated Emily into thinking Ryan was a liar. But why? The door creaked open, and Ryan's confused voice broke the silence. "Tanya? What are you doing here?" Emily had heard enough. Before Tanya could say a single word, Emily stepped into the light. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Emily saw Tanya for who she truly was. A liar, a manipulator, a betrayer. Tanya's smirk faltered, just for a second, but Emily had already figured out the truth. This wasn't about Ryan. This was about Tanya wanting to break them up. And Emily wasn't going to let her win.